Hey everyone, Jamie here. I really was just reflecting on, I think one of the hardest things about being a human and being like a typical human on this planet. A typical human, what I mean by that is you've got emotional baggage, right? You've got stories, you've got trauma, you've got experiences, you have programming, and it's all kind of in the moment, in the heat of the moment, it feels like it's working against you, you know? Logically, I know better than that, you know, and hopefully you're getting to the point where, like, logically, you know that's not the case. But that's how it feels. I think that's just the hardest part about being human, you know, and everybody has a breaking point, you know. Sometimes I see the headlines or I see things that are happening in the world and I'm just like, what are people thinking? I'm just like, what? But you know what? Then it's almost just like the universe just keeping me humble. And then one thing after another will go wrong or something like that, and before I know it, you know, I'm the asshole on the road, you know? Not violent, you know. I don't cause violence. I don't obstruct property. I don't, you know, damage other people's property. I don't hit anybody. I don't, you know what I'm saying? But it's just so crazy. You know, we all have that in us. We all have sort of that breaking point, and then like everybody's breaking point is different, right? Like the breaking point for one person, you know, like me driving like an asshole. Breaking point for another person is they fucking whip out a gun and shoot you. So, not exactly the same thing, but where am I going with this? This is what's hard about being a human is, one, in the heat of the moment, the vast majority of people do not have a regulated enough nervous system and are not emotionally healed enough to find that peace and calm in the eye of the storm and handle it. Many people can, but I think the vast majority are not there yet, and that makes it really, really challenging, because then you've got this highly emotionally charged situation and you definitely need to discharge that tension that is in your body. And then sometimes it just comes out at like what can feel like the dam just breaking, like unexpectedly, and not at the best possible time, you know. And so the solution for this is process everything that is coming up as soon as you possibly can. That's the gold standard. The gold standard is process it right then and there if you can. But what typically happens is we get triggered and we're around other people. Maybe it's at a job, or maybe it's around a customer, or maybe it's, a customer or a client or other professionals or acquaintances, or just people, you know, that, you know, essentially you're trying not to lose your shit in front of them. You're trying to keep your cool, but you're having this huge, like massive internal combustion happening where you're going nuts on the inside, but you're trying to just not lose your shit in front of other people. And so I think that that's civil. I do think that it is appropriate when you're having an internal meltdown and you are emotionally charged and you are super triggered. I do 100% believe that the most important thing you can do in that situation is to process your shit before involving other people. But yeah, there are sometimes situations where you're stuck, like there's a person and there's you, and like you can't escape, and you can't just go off in a room and privately process everything that's coming up. You can't like go have a good cry. You can't go scream into a pillow. Like you're literally there, you're stuck there, and there's nothing you can do about it. And when that happens, all I can say is take some deep breaths and promise yourself that as soon as you can, as soon as you have the privacy and space to do so, we're gonna deal with this shit. And I think in those situations when you don't, like, it's a very awkward situation that you can't necessarily easily step away from in that moment, you know, you are sort of putting a pin in it, and then you're pivoting and you're doing everything that you possibly can to just sort of, you know, in that moment, ideally you would be thinking about something completely different, where you don't have an emotional charge, where you can, you know, ideally something that brings joy or love or gratitude in your heart. That's ideal. You might not be able to make that leap though. What might happen is you're putting a pin in this like seriously triggering situation that's literally unfolding live in front of you, that you're trying to, you know, maintain calm, not lose your shit. You're trying not to explode about whatever's happening. And then sometimes like all you can do in that moment is, okay, that will get its time. I will give that my attention the second I can. But what I have to do now is be present in this moment. You almost just sort of coach yourself to neutrality. Sometimes you need to get neutral before you can get to, that was funny. Thank you. I needed that. Right? Like, or, you know, thinking of something that brings joy or love into your heart, or thinking just, you know, like, oh, I've got, you know, vacation time coming up, or thinking about something you're looking forward to. But I'm honestly humbled every day of my life, because it's almost like I have the game figured out, but I still, just like every other human, I know what move to make. I know how to play this game and win. But knowing is not the same as embodying it so fully that it's just who you are. It's all learned, and it's all not my default. I'll just say that right now. Everything I know about how to play the manifestation game, how to win at life, how to co-create the future you desire, everything that I know, I learned as an adult in the last 10 years of my life, and it was not my programming. It was not my default. And so yeah, it's humbling, you know. You know, I had that moment yesterday where I was in a professional setting and I had to not lose my shit, and it was fucking hard. And then today, because one of the hardest things too about, I'll just say this, one of the hardest things about when you're not processing your emotions in the moment, when you're literally physically in a situation where it's like, I've got to lock this up. This is not the place. This is not the time. This is not something I can step away from right now. When you can't process your emotions in the moment, they don't fucking go away, guys. They don't go away. So in the moment, I pivoted, but I had to keep going and finish what I was doing. I was in a professional environment. There was, obligations, things that had to be done, a schedule that had to be kept. And I was effectively distracted. And honestly, within probably an hour or two, I was even having a pretty decent day. So then what happened was when I came home, it was almost like I had kind of lost touch with the extreme triggered emotions that had come up for me earlier. And I was distracted enough and I was in a good enough mood that I just carried on with my day and with my night, and I didn't process it. And so I wonder if you can guess what happened today. I wonder if you can guess whether or not I experienced explosive emotional triggers today or not. The answer is I did. So I wouldn't use the word explosive, but something happened today and I had a completely irrational, like a random average person would be like, that was a bit of an overreaction. I didn't yell at someone or anything like that. I just started crying uncontrollably. And it was completely absolutely an overreaction, right? But the thing was, I was not crying uncontrollably about the thing that just happened. That was me not processing the emotion from the day before, piled on top of the issue that arose today. And that's what happens with people. That's what happens with humans. That's what happens out in the real world. People, you think this is not a big deal, and then they fucking go postal, or they go crazy, or someone's ordering at a freaking Burger King and you get their order wrong and they throw their shake in your face and you're just like, what the fuck just happened? I mean, it's never just the order being wrong. It's never just the fact that you cut someone off or that you whatever. It's never just that thing. It is that human has a bunch of shit bottled up inside of them that they haven't processed, and it was the straw that broke the camel's back. So, I guess I just wanted to share that. I guess I just wanted to remind you guys, best practice, gold star, that, the best practice is as soon as you possibly can, process whatever you were just triggered about. Process that shit. Ask yourself, what did I make it mean? What were the thoughts I was thinking? What were the beliefs I was thinking that caused me to feel this way? And question those and then upgrade it, right? You just allow yourself to acknowledge all of the things you were thinking and feeling. This is done in privacy, guys. Or I guess, if you have, if I need to vent, I vent 99% of the time to my husband, but I don't like to vent. But sometimes it helps me to process it, to say it, to someone, right? Sometimes that helps. But, ideally you're not doing that because you're not trying to vomit your trauma onto somebody else. You know what I mean? Growing up, I knew from watching a family member share their relationship problems with my mom, I saw what happened when one of my siblings would tell my mom, and my mom knew about the relationship issues. It was like she took those on, and it really bothered her, and it really upset her, and it really made her not like those people, right? And that can, when you're unleashing, when you're venting, when you're like letting it all out, that's just your shit. That's your shit. You're spewing your shit, and you're getting it on everybody that you share that with, right? And some people can like handle that fine, but it leaves a mark. And so you just, ideally, that's something that, I guess therapists are paid to be that sounding board professionally without any sort of attachment. But, and so that's always an option. But, ideally getting to this place where you can process it on your own. You know what? Oh, or here's another brilliant idea. And I've got to wrap this up, but use Grok or ChatGPT or Claude or whatever your AI tool of choice is. I literally went on there and I'm like, I'm having such a hard time. I'm really upset about this. And I explained it. And I was like, can you help me process this and make me feel better? To help me feel better. And it was such a therapeutic session and free. So amazing. Okay, guys, I don't know if you can hear the rain in the background. So I'm going to wrap this up now. Ideally, process your shit as soon as you possibly can. Sometimes you just can't do it right there, then and there in the moment, and I get it. But do not think that you have just like gotten by scot-free if you've sort of like recovered, even though you haven't processed your shit, because it's still stuck inside of you. And it is going to come pouring out of you at some point if you continue to ignore it and not process it and remain distracted. Something's going to happen, and it's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. So don't put yourself in that position. Have emotional hygiene just like you have physical hygiene. You brush your teeth, you shower, right? You do that regularly. You should also be processing your emotions as regularly as you shower and you brush your teeth. Emotional hygiene is just as important as physical hygiene. All right? Your mission, should you choose to accept it, as always, is to live and love your life on purpose. Bye.